Hey guys, so as a couple of you requested in one of my last videos, today's video is going to be a digital art process. So disclaimer, this is not a tutorial because I'm in no way in a place to give me like the ability to do a tutorial, but I just wanted to show you the process from start to finish so you can kind of see how I work. So yeah, let's get into it. For canvas size, I just use a square canvas, 300 dpi. I wouldn't recommend using any less than 2000 pixels so your artwork will be actually good in quality. And then for brushes, I basically use 3 brushes and that's it. The first one is the sketch one. I will put the names if I do find them in the description down below, but this brush is so good. It's really soft and really flexible and I just love it. And the second brush, which is this one, it's just a normal like opaque round brush and I use it for doing the plain colors so that nothing is like showing through and it's fully opaque. And then I use the airbrush for gradients or like making glow and these types of stuff. So I don't really use it that much and I wouldn't recommend using it that much, but for some parts it actually really helps to make it better. And for the eraser, I've been really in love with the rectangular shaped eraser rather than the round ones. So yeah, these are just the brushes that I use. Now, starting with the sketch, I usually first start with a very rough sketch. And what does a rough sketch mean? It's just basically putting in like where everything goes and just making blocks of where you want everything to go, just to make sure that everything is correct and it is kind of like okay for you to look at, so you can change things in this part without having to redo a lot of stuff. So as you can see, I'm basically just doing a couple of guidelines, drawing, but it's actually kind of really rough and blocky. I did add a couple of details in this sketch just to know where I'll put everything because I usually don't do line art. So I go from a really rough sketch to an actual like cleaner sketch, and that is just how I prefer to go with my drawings. But you can do whatever suits you, and this is not like a default type or way to go about a digital piece. So yeah. Then we have the sketch slash line art process. So basically here, after I drew the rough sketch and I made sure that like the composition looks okay and the like facial features and proportions are kind of okay to my eyes, I just start with the line art slash sketch. As I said in my last video, I don't do line art because I just think it takes away from the sketchy feeling of the illustration or drawing, and I kind of prefer it that way. I don't want it to be like too stiff or too like cleaned up where it doesn't look as good as the sketch. So I just go with a sketch. I try to make it as clean as possible, and it doesn't really appear when you look at the drawing from afar. If you do zoom in though, it does kind of appear, but I guess it doesn't really matter for me, so I'm okay with that. But you can do whatever you want and feel free to just do whatever suits you. You can try different styles of drawing and see whichever makes you more comfortable and more happy with your art. So here I'm just drawing and then I go on and fix stuff, as you'll see later, because some stuff I just don't like, and yeah. Also, I know that this is kind of unrelated to the video, but I just wanted to thank you all so much for all the love and support that you've been showing me lately on my last videos. It just means a lot to me, and it's really insane for me. I still can't believe it. So thank you guys so much for everything, for commenting, liking, even watching my videos. It just means a lot, and it's been kind of a part of my day that makes me really happy. And yeah, I just really love you all, and I wanted to thank you so much. And also thank you for keeping up with my videos. I feel like my videos are kind of boring to an extent, so I'm trying my best to make it kind of entertaining and to do stuff that you guys will like. So hopefully that will happen. And sorry if things are kind of boring right now. I'll try to improve as I go on with this channel. But yeah, again, I just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this amazing opportunity. Now back to the video. Here I'm just adding details, and as you can see, I'm kind of indecisive. So you'll see I'm erasing stuff a lot and fixing stuff and going over stuff, but I actually really liked this illustration. I tried to make it kind of like Y2K and cute at the same time. This was just a really random illustration that I wanted to draw just to like do this video and to kind of make this art process, but I actually ended up really liking it, and I really enjoyed drawing it. So I hope you guys like it too. Also, one thing that I would really recommend if you're a beginner artist or you're just starting drawing is flipping the canvas. It might be scary and you might be in disbelief of how bad the art looks when you flip it, but trust me, this is the best way to make sure that the proportions are right and that everything is kind of like okay and kind of symmetrical. So here in Krita, I think there is a shortcut for it, which is just clicking on the letter M, and that will flip the canvas. So this makes it easier to like click on it while you're drawing, but it really does help. And you just flip your canvas, and then if you see that some things are just not on the same line, or like an eye is a bit higher than the other, you can fix it, and that will surely make your drawing look really much better. So that is just what I was doing here. I kept on flipping the canvas back and forth and then tweaking the eyes to make sure that they look kind of decent. They don't look perfect, and you're not going to reach a perfect like look, but at least it's going to look okay and you're not going to notice it. started the coloring process. And as you can see, I used the round brush. As I said before, it's just an opaque brush, so feel free to use whatever. And this is just to make sure that nothing will be see-through, because if you want to like do a black background, for example, if you use a low opacity brush, it's going to show the black from underneath. So this is why I use this brush, and then I go over it with the softer brush that I talked about, and I do the rendering. And sometimes I do shading as I go. Like for the face, I think I always start with the face because it's like the most exciting part for me, and then I move on to the hair. And then if I'm satisfied with how this like drawing looks, I move on to the clothing and the rest of the piece, because sometimes I do get discouraged after drawing the face and the hair. So yeah, here I'm just rendering the face. Sometimes I render and shade during like coloring from the beginning. I don't just like do plain color and then I shade at the end. I do a mix of both. I don't know why, it's just the way that I work. It might be a little bit weird for some people, but it's just the way that I'm used to doing my drawings. So yeah, and I really liked the color of her hair. You'll see that it's kind of like an orangey color, and I really like it. And I love the combination of light hair with dark skin. I've been really in love with that, so I included that in the drawing. Here I was rendering the eyes a little bit to add a little bit of color and dimension into them, and I usually do this by adding a layer on top of the line art layer, so I'll be able to like change in the line art and render some things. So yeah, this is just how I do that. And I really like doing a layer on top of the line art and then drawing over it, because you can add like more stuff and more dimension. For example, the hair strands, as you'll see later on, I used that layer and I think it really adds some pop to the illustration. I also really indecisive with the colors, especially on the sunglasses and the top. I started with like darker colors and then I didn't end up liking it, so I changed it into this lilac, kind of muted lilac color, and I think I like it a little bit better. I'm just like coloring, doing like plain colors. I don't really shade till later, and you'll see how I do it, but I was just like putting plain colors, and for the hair I was like putting in some strands to make like highlights and stuff like that. So lastly, here I started the shading. As you can see already, some parts are shaded because I do shade while I'm drawing, so like in the face, but what really helps me with shading and making everything look put together and go together is making an overlay and multiply layer. So basically overlay is mostly used for highlights. So if you do a layer and make the style of the layer overlay, you'll see that once you put like a light color on top of it, it will make the color underneath a little bit lighter. It's making it like a bit glowy. So I really like that effect, and I like using it for highlights instead of going with the color picker and then like making the color lighter and then going over it, which will make the process a little bit more difficult, I guess. And then for the multiply, it's the same thing, but for multiply, it's basically I use it for shading, because if you use any color on top of that color, it's basically going to be kind of like a low opacity layer, putting that color on top of your color, and it's making it look kind of better instead of going with an opaque darker color from the color that you're using. This might sound really confusing, and I know I'm not explaining it well, but I hope you do get it. So it's really helpful, and it's one of my favorite things to do for shading. I just do cell shading. I don't do much shading, so it doesn't look too rendered, but yeah, I think it looks okay with like a little bit of cell shading to give a little bit of dimension, but not too much. Here I was just adding more like finishing details at the end, like adding more strands to the hair to make it look a little bit more flowy and highlighting some of these strands. And then I felt like the background was a little bit too plain, so I added these sparkles. You'll see these sparkles a lot in my digital paintings. I just love them so much, and I love adding them. They just add so much glow. And here is the final result. I'm not too happy with it, but I kind of like it. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video and staying here till the end. I love you all so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Goodbye!